Once there was a man who took it upon himself to achieve the impossible. Dead Island 2's hardest difficulty. Not only is this challenge notorious for being something only masochists would attempt, apparently, but doing it without using any blueprints and all with zero experience in the game is something even the most daring adventurer wouldn't take on. They called the man crazy, but still he decided to try it. The man's name was me, FPSurvivor. I start off the challenge by choosing my character, and since I don't know any of them, Carla it is. Her innate skills on the surface don't look all that great, but her attributes look pretty good, so I'm happy. Very quickly, I'll get you guys up to speed. In the opening cutscene, we're introduced to all the characters. This guy is named Robert Steele, and he bribed this guy to skip the regular protocols so himself, his wife, and her personal assistant can board the plane to get out of Los Angeles. Turns out skipping the protocol was a terrible idea because he's infected and proceeds to attack this fangirl who was just trying to get a selfie. So since there's an infected on the plane, the military shoots it out of the sky. That's where we come in. Oh my god, I'm like a sprinkler system right now. I should probably go to the hospital. Oh, okay. I poured Resident Evil 7 boo-boo juice on it and put on a band-aid, so I suppose that's a worthy alternative. As soon as I step foot out of the plane, I see a flare being fired, so I hastily make my way to my fellow crash survivors.
Yo, dude, you got blood coming out of your ears.
What? I can't hear you. I got blood coming out of my ears.
Okay, that got me. Our reunion doesn't last long, however, because we hear zombies coming. And I'm, no offense to these guys, clearly the only one here that can fight. So Miss Actress Woman named Emma gives me her home address just in case we want to find her later, and they flee. Now it's just me, and I have to protect this couple from the horde of approaching zombies. This one just kinda pops into existence, and after approaching him, the game is on. I must say, I didn't expect the combat to be so snappy. Each time I attack a zombie, it's like my character attempts to lock onto the enemy, and let's just say it gets me hit a few times. I'm making this video right after finishing the Dying Light Broken Weapons Only challenge, and the difference in combat is night and day. Dead Island 2 definitely feels more arcadey, I guess. At first glance, it seems power attacks are going to be my best friend. In a turn of events that nobody saw coming, this guy is still alright, but his wife was somehow infected. So when I try to give her water, she bites me, and now I'm in some trouble. Oh, by the way, this game is disgusting. Now that I'm bitten, I'm obviously not feeling too good, so Carla decides to go to the address Emma gave us to sleep it off or something. Not entirely sure what her big plan was here. Maybe it's the shoes, or my hairstyle, or I guess the bite, but for some reason I'm thinking these people don't take too kindly to my being here. Just between us. After passing out, I wake up to my wrist being impaled with some toy handcuffs, but get released because they know I'm their only hope against the zombies that have just surrounded the house. This is where the deck is introduced to us. Essentially, this is just our perks that we're able to use for the playthrough. This is also where we're given the Masochist skill card, which is gonna make the entire challenge a lot more difficult. An example of this is my instantly dying to the zombies the very next fight that I have. I take back what I said earlier, because looking back on this death now, it's easy to see that I'm relying too much on the charge attack. It's definitely not something you should be using on groups of them, since it likes to target singular zombies while not giving invincibility frames. Other than that one death, however, things go pretty well. I mainly end up using the environment to kill the rest of the zombies, though later in the game this will become a lot less useful, so I need to get better at combat and fast. Even though they were just suspicious of me, my taking care of the zombies for them mixed with the fact I haven't turned yet makes them go, well shoot, I guess you're alright, and they accept me with no further questions. It's not 3 seconds later in the conversation that we hear noises coming from outside, and is that Sam B from the first game? That's super cool. I mean, I was more of a fan of Sean May from the first game, but I guess he's cool too. Turns out Sam and Emma here used to be good friends, and he just wants to do whatever it is he's doing here. In this house in particular, so she's like, sure. So let's go into a bit more detail with the challenge. Along with the difficulty being bumped to 11, I'm also not going to be doing any sort of blueprint crafting. See this little blueprint looking background? Let's get that, chuck that thing right out the window, we don't need it. This means that I can't upgrade my weapons or even craft medkits. Needless to say, I've got quite the fun ahead of me. But anyway, it's about time that we got back at it. Our character is dead set on telling the authorities that we are immune to try and help people, and despite Sam's warnings that they'll try to dissect us, we go. I find an old man named Curtis on the way there who needs my help. Then, when he's safe, we race our way to the Halperin Hotel. I must say, they don't give you a bunch of reason to actually attack the zombies, other than it's just just fun or you need to level up. I could have just sprinted past so many zombies without any issue, but I don't because, like I said, I need to get good. I arrive at the hotel where the evacuations were supposed to have taken place for the civilians and find that the door to the radio is locked or something. Because of course it is, right? So in classic video game format, I'm gonna have to fight my way through the entire hotel to have access to this single room. Jeez, freaking scared the crap out of me. We come across this pool and are introduced to what's basically the corrosive element in this game. Investigate the pool? You want me to get in? Oh, nope. You don't get the pool. This Major Booker person that keeps talking over the intercom has it out bad for someone for some reason, and they think we are her. So we get the full experience throughout the hotel of her trying to kill us, but when we arrive, it looks like she's already been taken care of by something. We get on the radio and make contact with someone about our immunity, but are pretty much immediately cut short because... Ladies and gentlemen, our first boss battle of Dead Island 2 is with Becky the Bridezilla. She actually wasn't too terribly difficult. I think it was mostly just the insane amount of health compared to how much she dealt in damage that was a bit rough for me. This fight took me about 10 minutes to complete, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Now that we've made contact with the authorities, it's time to head back to Emma's place to get the rest of the crew prepared to leave. I almost make it too, but someone blows something up, and you know me, I've got the attention span of a peanut. So I've gotta go investigate that thing. Long story short, it's a woman named Amanda Stiles, and she wants to record a video of me killing zombies. Things go well, but now that we've taken care of Bridezilla, these Crusher guys are spawning all over the place. Despite them taking a million years to go down though, I don't have much trouble with this mission honestly, and it ends up being free XP. With that little detour out of the way, we're free to return to Emma's place now, but we're not there long because... Oh, her dog's name is Sam. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. But yeah, we're not there long because it turns out Michael escaped from the house because he feels inferior and is trying to help or something. And Andrea here is pissed. So, I go on what's essentially a wild goose chase to find this man. First, I go to his house. He's not there. Then to his friend Jesse's house that's surrounded by zombies, but she's also not there. So I have to go to the construction site where she was actually located, clear it of zombies, and only then do I find out he was going to the set of Emma's movie, which was hinted at when we first went to his house. So finding Jesse was worthless. After disposing of about 200 zombies, we're finally at the set, indicated by this massive freaking spider, and what's waiting for me inside there is yet another boss-level creature for us to defeat. This fight was actually pretty cool. I really enjoyed the fact that the spider set piece was actually functional and provided traps for me to use. I just wish that the damage of the environmental effects was as good as it was in the beginning. It seems to be common for these boss fights to spawn additional zombies every increment or so of health, so they were a nice touch. The zombie we're fighting is called a slobber. And again, he wasn't all that difficult to beat even with the restrictions. So long as he didn't get the full toxic debuff on me, I could just kinda ignore him until I finished off the rest of the ads. Then he got my full attention. Mr. Michael here is ecstatic that I came to help him, and now that he's safe, Sam B contacts me to let me know that he wants me to help him get some guns. We get literally no time to rest since the last one before we're introduced to yet another boss level zombie. This one is called a Screamer. Seems appropriate. And she is a total pain. She gathers and enrages all other zombies around, and as long as she's screaming, you can't even approach her. I suppose it wouldn't feel as big of an issue if she didn't scream for what felt like 15 minutes straight. That and the fact that she's a damage sponge. But I really didn't expect a back-to-back boss fight here. Oh yeah, it's probably implied at this point, but Ronnie is not so alive right now. Goodbye, my distant acquaintance. I really did barely know you. Now to do what we came here to do. I meet up with Sam B, get some guns, and the game actually has a section where you get unlimited ammo for a bit. I actually really liked this section. You rarely see that anymore. It's almost as if games are scared to do it for some reason. I did a mission after this one, and there's a line that I think really speaks to me and the excitement I felt in this section of the gameplay. As a wise man once said, Michael has returned to Emma's place in the time it took me to get back, and who'da thunk it, my sus meter when talking to him earlier was correct. Turns out he's been bitten, and sadly he doesn't make it either, forcing me to be the one to put him down since Emma would most definitely have died here if I didn't. Emma, in her blind rage, takes out her fury on me by kicking me out of her house. So, well shoot, fine then I guess. I'm going to Santa Monica by myself.
Okay, learn the hard way.
No, God!
I got one last tip for you.
No, God, please, no!
To get around Banoi, I use the sewers.
No!
So I guess we're going into the Dummel sewers. I hate sewer levels. Does anyone like the sewer levels? How are there even zombies in here? Were these guys just hanging out in the sewers when this thing started? In the sewer, we meet this Patton guy, just as we're about to be blown up by another new zombie type. He seems like a fun guy, but let's just say he doesn't seem to be all there at the moment. So we continue on. I've been having these fun little brain aneurysm things ever since being bitten at the start of the game, and I think this is what those were hinting toward. I'm not sure what causes it or why, but being kicked down here in this pit with all these zombies makes me go insane, and this is where Fury is introduced. Yeah, you guys remember Fury? In the first Dead Island, it was that awesome ability that changed varied on which hero you picked, but in this game it seems to be generalized to just Hulk smash mode. I'd be lying if I said this wasn't disappointing because I loved experimenting with everyone's Furies in the first game. Luckily for all of you, I'm cutting a large portion of the rest of the sewers, since nothing else really happened anyway. But yeah, we make it to Venice Beach, and after helping these gym bros out a bit by going to the police station and killing this new Firelord Ozai zombie, it's time to meet Mr. Radio Man.
Behold, Excalibur!
Here we are now at Ocean Avenue. Things seem incredibly quiet upon first entering this area, and I'm guessing the reason for that is because they all gathered in this one building to form their own zombie union to try and kill me. There's very few times in this game that I feel completely overrun, but this is definitely one of those times. Embarrassing to admit, but I completely panicked here. I respawn ready for another big fight, but I guess they all despawned. This is the most unsatisfied I've been after an encounter in a long time. But hey, I guess I can't complain. With them all gone, it's time to meet Dr. Reed. We hardly have time to speak before his daughter comes in all like, "Dad," but he shuts her down real quick. I'm sure this won't come back later in the story. Nope, no sir, definitely not. And can I just say, in a world where these monstrosities are running around, why would you want to go outside and help? What are you, crazy? I'd be the equivalent to Eustace from Courage the Cowardly Dog in this scenario. Back to the topic at hand now. Reed needs us to go to the CDC tent thing at Venice Beach to test out our blood and pick up a laptop for him since the authorities don't believe that we're immune. This is where we're introduced to a whole other section of the skills called autophage, and these might honestly be a challenge video in and of itself. Let me know if you want to see that in a future video. I don't end up using any autophage as of right now because I'm not usually a huge fan of abilities that come with drawbacks. As soon as I arrive at the pier, I'm introduced to these caustic walker guys, and for the first time, 11 hours into the game, I am killed through the iframes provided by counterattacking. Invincibility apparently doesn't work for splash effect damage. The more you know, I guess. I proceed to stick my whole arm into this machine and get my blood withdrawn. This machine is terrifying, by the way. And now I just need the blood drive, which is somehow located at the far end of the pier. Wouldn't you know it, turns out the path is blocked off because it exploded or something. Whoopsie! So I have to go through this cool-looking arcadey area, making sure to have to fight this electric screamer guy. At this point in the game, I'm prioritizing my life over damage in these pseudo-boss fights, so that pretty much just means running away until I can get some safe damage on the enemy. This strategy takes a long time, but it seems to be working out alright for me. Remember the back-to-back boss creatures from earlier? Well, that. Why is there a clown zombie? This guy is brutal. His attacks aren't the hardest to block, but if I manage to mistime them even one time, it's likely for me to be caught in a combo of his for a second. To make things worse, as soon as I manage to do some decent damage on him, he just runs away and heals. How dare a zombie heal? I'm the only one that can do that. To combat this, you're supposed to just hit them out of the animation, but for some reason I thought, why not just burn the bodies? To be fair, it seemed to work pretty well, and after 10 minutes after the fight started, I finally put Butcho down to rest and acquired the laptop. Ugh, I better not be seeing Dr. Reed or whatever his name is playing Minecraft on this thing later. On the way back from the pier, I go through this wicked cool parkour section as the bridge collapses, but it all kind of gets washed down, no pun intended, because I remember that Carla is kind of just doing this to not get wet. Like, just fall in. Unless there's zombie sharks out there, you should be fine. I return to Reed with the laptop and see Miss Pushy from earlier just kinda chilling there. Her name's Conrad, spelled like this for some reason, and I feel she was just introduced here to seem more mysterious. Jimmy then kicks the door down, telling us that Reed's daughter Tisha is missing. I'm sure this won't come back later in the story. Nope, no sir, definitely not. So instead of sending our good pal Jimmy out to find her like they should have, I'm sent instead. But I guess it wouldn't be Dead Island if I constantly sent other people out to do the work for me. I must say, Tisha is one of the easiest people to find. She must have an infinite amount of these crossbow bolts that blink and light up, because they are all over the place. All I had to do was follow them until they led me directly to her, and even better, once I came inside, nobody even reacts to me just being there. How is this group still alive? If this were the Dying Light universe, Rise would have just sauntered in and claimed the place as his own within 15 minutes of the apocalypse starting. But as I speak with her, I learn that this Conrad person is her aunt, and her and Reed are likely doing something shady. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I hardly understood what this scope thing is going on about, but Carla is baffled that there could possibly be another immune person out there, even though we already know that Sam B is also immune. So I'm not sure what that was all about. Anyway, I go to where Reed was experimenting on this Noah guy, and who would have thought this is yet another boss fight? Man, what is this, Dark Souls? There are so many of them. This guy is the hardest zombie type I've encountered yet by far. He has no weaknesses like blunt weapons or blades, so this pretty much ensures that this fight lasts at least for 15 minutes. I think that he would have been more bearable if he didn't shoot out his ribcage every 3 seconds and inflict me with what's essentially the equivalent of super bleed. But right at the end, if the game didn't have me go into a permanent state of fury, I might have died because I ran out of medkits completely. Needless to say, this was a pretty rough fight. After I take him down, I collapse and begin the process of Newman rebirth. Then Conrad proceeds to lore dump on me. Without going too far into it, myself along with everyone in this room are called Newman, which is basically humans who were infected but still have their humanity. Oh, and we are all apparently part of some kind of hive mind, and we can all talk telepathically now. Definitely didn't see this coming in the story, but at least we have a seriously powerful new Newman card that ensures we will never die as long as I can land a perfect block. It's time for me to return to the Serling Hotel to confront Reed about poor old Noah, but by the time I get there, apparently he and Tisha bounced on out of there in their helicopter, and all the survivors are pretty mildly upset with him. But luckily he was just nice enough to leave the laptop behind, logged in and everything. So Jimmy here gets a nice long look at what he's been doing. And Jimmy was even nice enough to destroy the evidence for him. What a nice, smart, wise man. Could you imagine if the survivors didn't see him fly out of there in the helicopter? So now the plan is to get Emma to persuade Patton to fly us out of here, since we know that there's a helicopter around to get us out. And where Emma comes, Sam B is sure to follow. We meet up in the sewers, and Emma uses her celebrity status to pretty much ensure poor Tap-On here has no chance of refusal. The poor guy never stood a chance. Sadly, this of course means that we need to endure the sewers one more time. But things go pretty well until we get separated from the others and are pitted against another band of roaming zombies, including a mutator and a couple of screamers. I died once in a rather lame way because I got stuck and couldn't move, but other than that, we're about 2 levels below the zombies in this area, so the weapons I'm currently using just aren't holding up in terms of damage. So I think it's necessary to make a tactical retreat for now to level up a bit and re-gear. The next 2 hours I did side quests to level up, and at this point in the game, most of my weapons are superior level. I returned to the scene of my demise earlier and things go so much better. Let's just say the hunting rifle will be your new best friend against these screamers. The mutators, on the other hand, are still a huge pain. The plan when facing them is to pretty much just perfectly block every attack or die. With a bit of skill, or luck, depending on how you see it, I finally make it through and meet up with the others. We find the helicopter, and as we're about to leave, Sam collapses because turns out he's not entirely immune to the virus, and it's finally starting to catch up with him or something. So Carla has a character-defining moment, getting all fired up, and saying she needs to face the problem instead of running away.
Yeah, now that's a Hollywood ending.
So we run through this absolutely tiny map and eventually find where the Reeds are hiding themselves. We learn a little bit about these guys, the main being that he reveals he started the outbreak to Tisha, he ran some of Carla's Newman blood through his own to make a one-shot cure, and he modified Tisha's blood when she was a baby to allow her to be harvested for a cure. And it's finally time for the final boss fight. The Rubinator? That took it out of me so hard. This fight is actually relatively huge, and I ended up dying here a bunch of times. It's nothing new in the sense of enemies or attacks, but the lower this guy's health gets, the tubes spawn in more zombies. By the end, you're not only fighting the mutator, you're fighting every single type of Apex variant zombie at the same time. It honestly probably shouldn't have been as tough as it was for me, but I'm pretty bad at multitasking, so managing when to jump over the Crusher shockwave, when to throw something at the screamer to stop them screaming, when to dodge the mutator's ribcage ranged attack, all while perfectly blocking attacks was a bit much for my tiny brain. But after 4 or 5 deaths, I finally made it through. Ah, thank God. It's time to escape and... I'm sorry, I had to do it. On the way out, it very nicely put all the zombies in the way in one shot range, and I got to satisfyingly slay some zombies to the background music as I made my way out. I give the cure to Sam B.
Not his head, you idiot. Ay, puta. My bad.
Emma gives him the cure, and he comes back to his consciousness with this one-liner as if he had literally any control over the situation, and then fly on out of there. The game then jarringly goes to third person to show us fighting, and that's the end of the game, I guess. The ending of this game came out of nowhere, honestly. I expected there to be so much more. Or at least I expected we would go find Tisha, who is kinda just still at large, I guess. But yeah, not allowing any sort of blueprints while on this masochistic difficulty, I feel really blocks off an entire section of the game from being used. And I have no doubts that I would have had an easier time in some fights if I used them. That being said, this game was honestly so much fun. I remember playing through Dead Island when I was younger, and it was one of those games that I played over and over again, just because I found it satisfying to play. And to be honest, this game recreates that feeling pretty well. I must say though, there's not a lot of content in this game. The maps are super linear and there wasn't a whole lot of character development, but the combat was super satisfying. The visuals were incredible and the gore was, well, this game is disgusting. But it's games like this that bring me back to the days of my childhood, and I'm really glad I got to play it.